What's up? I am Pete Crane. Welcome to the first Q&A on my new YouTube channel. I asked you guys for questions on my various social media outlets, and this is what you came back with. This is going to be the first video that I launched this new channel with, so if you're here for the live premiere event, say hi in the text chat, I'll be there. And yeah, loads of questions here. I'll try and get through all of them, so let's get started. The first one is from The Gothfather. Drums first, bass line first, vocal melody first, lyrics first. I know each song has its own story, but which do you find is the norm the most for you when it comes to the different elements when creating a fully developed song? It kind of depends on what I'm, feeling. If I'm particularly, coming into it with a preconceived idea, or if I've just got, a chunk of time to make music. If I'm not feeling particularly inspired, I'll probably just start with a kick drum. And just get that sounding as good as I can, and then throw on a bass line, or maybe I'll run some percussion through some distortion and just try and layer things up from there. Once I've got a few layers going, I can start structuring things, get like a verse and a chorus section going, and then start thinking about melodies and vocals eventually. So yeah, it sort of depends, but generally drums first, and specifically kick drum first, because let's face it, that's the most important thing. Audnamer asks, sorry if I mispronounced how you want your username to be pronounced, but you ask, you would make a tour of South America? Yes, it's been on the cards a couple times, but hasn't come to fruition, but it's definitely something that I want to make happen. It's my next goal, really. I really want to do more Central and South America. That would be amazing. Gus Catalano asks, what motivated you into producing? So originally it was as a way to record songs that I was, record guitar and make backing tracks for guitar. And the first thing I did when I started recording guitar things is I made, I was making Manson and Nine Inch Nails covers with my computer, layering up feedback and layering up guitar, and either MIDI drums or drums from the software that was around at the time, like Rebirth and the original Fruity Loops, and layering that up in like Acid, first versions of Cubase. And then I discovered industrial music from there and found that was more and more electronic and more synth based. And then I just started adding more and more synths to my productions, and eventually the guitar got phased out altogether. And that's kind of where I'm up to. Philippe Plachkowski asks, what bands inspire you now, and who would you like to collaborate with? I can't stop listening to Gojira, and it's been like that for ages. Like, not necessarily in a stylistic, like a genre way, but I just love how honest and real their music feels to me. Like, I really just sort of feel what they're trying to put across, and I think that honesty in itself is inspiring. I'm always inspired by Deadmau5's production and his sort of vibe that he puts across, and his honesty in music as well. I think he's sort of in a position where he can do whatever he wants stylistically, and he does, I feel. So yeah, I love them. I would love to collaborate with Chelsea Wolfe. I think she's got some of the most inspiring sound design in music at the moment, and I'd love to do something with her. Mick Gordon is another one of those, sound design holy grail dudes. I'd love to do a track with that guy, Mick. Eric Stone asks, favorite places you've toured? I would have to put Mexico at the top of that list. Not to play favorites, but I just love it there. Always have an amazing time, great people, great crowds, great food, and I just have a good time. And I would love to go back there soon. And yeah. Scar Lyle, what's up, Scar? Asks, what game have you sunk the most time in over the years? According to my Steam library, CSGO. Eli Vance asks, what that booty do? Thanks, man. Eli goes on to say, I'm being silly. I'd really like to know how you make those ghostly ass high-pitched sounds that are such a key to the atmosphere you deliver without making them shrill or painful. Man, what you're describing there is exactly what my bandmate Ben Bulig does in Shiver. So, Shiver is a duo, we make the music together. Generally, my responsibilities are the beats, the percussion, the bass lines, the sort of structure of it all. Obviously the vocals and the lyrics, and I'm generally leaving the sort of atmospheres, the sort of the theremin kind of melodies, and I know exactly the sounds you're kind of just trying to describe. And if anyone's knows Shiver, you know it as well. There's kind of those eerie soundscapes, and that's what my bandmate does. Okay, Darcy Septicemic Boutine asks, gaming questions, eh? What are your thoughts on virtual reality? Think we'll see tech like Ready Player One in our lifetime? No. It's not about the tech, it's about the application. And I do have an opinion about this. I think it's kind of like no one in the 80s and the 70s and the 20s even predicted how technology would look today in the one area that it's really excelled that no one predicted, which is around communication, around phones specifically, around how portable and how easily we could communicate with each other. Look, no one predicted mobile phones, so it's basically just that thing of like, I don't think anyone can predict it. There's probably some sort of law or reference around the phenomenon where no one can predict it, but I think it comes down to the fact that we like making predictions out of commodifiable, gimmicky things, hoverboards, jetpacks, stuff that's easy to put into a book and make a movie out of and put on screen with special effects, but it doesn't actually fit a need. It's kind of finding a hole for a peg. And I think Ready Player One did that. I read the book, I saw the movie. The book was super captivating. I loved the book, and I think the version of virtual reality that they portray is super achievable tech-wise, but the application won't be there. And it's just that sort of promised future that keeps getting denied to us. We keep getting some other version of future that nobody asked for, and unexpected applications take off. Stephen Luke asked a couple of things. What inspires your stage wardrobe choices? You got some awesome stuff there. And what is your opinion concerning the theory of the reptilian takeover? Not sure how to answer the latter one, but for the stage outfits, I'm just trying to do something a bit unique, something that sort of works for my look that wouldn't work for anyone else's look, because I think that's all you can do, really. I don't want to be one of those bands that just dresses up like Motley Crue and all these industrial bands that look like rock and metal bands suddenly, and they're either trying to dress up like their heroes or something like that. And I just tried to do something that works for what I'm putting down, what I'm putting across, and that's all I sort of try and go for there. Stephanie Forrester asks, I'm interested in anything related to music production. What got you interested in making music? What was your practice routine like before you became a professional? For example, did you sink a ton of hours into it and maybe even go to school for it? Or is it something someone can pick up as a hobby and go from there? Do you have any advice for total noobs who want to make similar dark dance music, etc.? Okay, so what got me interested in it was, I came up in a sort of musical family. I was playing guitar since I was 6, and then got into making music with computers as a sort of early teen sort of thing, and that it just sort of wasn't a question. It was just something that was always natural and just sort of progressed from an early interest and an early passion for the bands that I was listening to, and a passion for wanting to sort of make people feel how those bands made me feel, and that's sort of driven me on to do it. So Stephanie goes on to ask some more questions. I'm also interested in any kind of history about your life, what it was like to transition from just being a guy working at some normal job somewhere to being an international music star. I imagine it's a lot of work and you have to be self-disciplined since it's not like a job you physically go to and a boss is watching over you. Okay, look, so I'm going to stop you there. I was thinking about this. I saw this question come in, and it's not something that I particularly promulgate about, but it's not something I really want to hide either. But I've got a day job in IT. So I just didn't want to sort of obfuscate that fact and do this whole sort of like highlight reel thing and, comparing your life to people's lives and thinking that, that they're an international music star. Like, I'm doing this in my spare time. I think if you've got it in you, you'll make time for it. You'll do it. You won't have any other choice. There's a bunch of great questions here from Rock Amos. I'm going to try and go through them all. Is there any chance you remix or collaborate with a band such as Nightclub, IMX, Celldweller, Gary Newman, Nyx, or other such acts that are slightly outside the goth industrial music scene? I love IMX. They're one of my top fave guys. I'd love to exchange remixes with Chris Corner. In terms of acts outside the music scene, I mean, check out Morris Black. He's absolutely this awesome guy to watch. He's just done a remix for us for our upcoming single. He's very cleverly described himself as industrial bass music, and that really fits because, it's quite industrial, but it's also, bass music, as in, that sort of separate genre in and of itself. There's another artist who's done a remix for us, and I'm really happy to be working with and mates with now is Shift, this great psytrance producer from South Africa who's recently moved to Australia. And I'm so happy to be working with him. He was one of my favorite producers when I was really into psytrance. Not that I'm not really into psytrance now, I still love it, but just bringing in that psytrance influence as well, the bass music, electro. It's good to branch out. Okay, anyone you feel particularly thankful to for helping you get where you are today? Definitely, you can't do it all alone. Even if you're a solo project, self-published, all that stuff, there's still a lot of people that help you all the time. And I'd probably best not to mention some people and miss out others, but I think it's absolutely a thing to be grateful all the time for anyone who helps you with anything, and reciprocate by trying to help other people where you can. That's something that I really want to try and do more and more, is just sort of help people at least as much as I am helped by other people, as a sort of resolution that I want to start doing more of. What do you think of your own music? Any song you particularly love more than others? Any that you listen to today that you just can't find yourself to listen to at all? Yeah, I flick back and forth all the time between what songs of my own and what sort of styles I've gone down that I'm really feeling at one point or another. Every time we do a Shiver live set, or a string of shows together, it's very often a very different style. So our last set we did, it was fully electronic in style. It was actually behind a DJ booth in this club in Melbourne called Laser Highway, and we just focused on the fully dance floor oriented up-tempo songs. The last gig we did before that was totally the opposite. We had live drums, bass, guitars, and we were playing the slower songs that we sort of never would otherwise play live, like Milk and Honey and Lifelike even. So yeah, I'm always back and forthing on what I'm feeling at the moment. So, any plan to release a new music video in the near future? Yep, we're shooting one in 2 days from now for the new single. Did you ever have to deal with a group of groupies that wanted you? If yes, how difficult was it to deal with them? You probably thought I'd blow this one off, but I do actually have an answer for this one. I think the thing to realize is that when this happens, it's got nothing to do with you. It's not about you. It's these people kind of have this, you can tell that they think that if they can sort of captivate the person that captivated a room full of people after a show, then they have some sort of power over you. And, where they otherwise wouldn't, they can't captivate a room full of people. So it's just a matter of having some self-respect and not going down that path. What's your favorite music playlist these days? We've just started a Blind Mice Productions Spotify playlist. I might use this opportunity to plug that. I'll throw a link in the comments with artists that we're listening to and checking out. Yeah, let's move on. Are you into gaming a lot? If yes, what's your favorite 3 games? Your top 3 favorite games? Number 1, Bloodborne. Best gaming experience I've ever had. So definitely into that one. Number 2, I would say Quake 3 Arena. And number 3, probably like Far Cry 3 or maybe The Last of Us. And finally, what's your favorite qualities in a person? I like someone who's sticks to what they think is important and is honest about that, and is open to change, but is also not persuaded or influenced into thinking a certain thing or acting a certain way. I like that kind of honesty in a person. Okay, Dennis Froloff asks, how do you see music in the future? What sound design is going to be popular? By sound design, I'm going to assume you mean like genre sort of thing, but I don't know. I mean, it's everything just cycles, doesn't it? You hear so much, in like game and movie trailers, the biggest thing right now is that kind of bluesy, like thump, 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 that kind of sound. And that's, but it's got a modern spin on it. It's kind of like EDM produced blues, and I am so on board for that. We just see things cycling around. Sergey Rubkov says, hey, when is the next album? Last one was absolute dope. Thank you very much. The last Shiver album was Requiem for the Hyperreal. That was, a couple of years ago now. But in the meantime, I've been working on a solo album. I've just finished it for my project Plague Sequence, which I'm resurrecting. And that's going to come out. The next Shiver album, we've been working on it. There's a pile of tracks, but it might be, things are a bit delayed between that. I've been working on some tracks with Amelia Arsenic for a new EP for her. So there's been a few other things in the pipeline, but we'll get to it. Okay, Lucas O'Byrne asks, and this is a similar, Christelle Reclus and Lucas both asked, can Clarence make regular appearances? Clarence is our cat. You'll definitely see this a continuous thing that my arms are continually wrecked from Clarence bites and scratches, so we'll try and get him on cam. Todrick Calcaterra, hey man. You're asking, will Requiem for the Hyperreal have a second single or remix album? No remix album for this album, but there will be a sort of second single or a companion single that we're working on and will be out shortly. I'm going to jump on the last question that I've got here. Kitty Bat, hi, what is your top 5, or 10 if 5 is not enough, movies? Alright, so number 1 is easy, that's Alien. And number 2 is Blade Runner. Blade Runner was my number 1, and I'm sure it was a lot of people's number 1, but I just feel as though the original Alien is a lot less compromised. There's no director's cut, there's no final cut, there's no theatrical version to avoid. It's just a perfectly made and produced and directed piece of cinema, and I love it, and that's why it's jumped up to my number 1 slot. Number 3, I think The Exorcist definitely should go up there. Yeah, I'm just going to stick with 3. That'll do. Look, there's some great questions here that are more like suggestions for episodes, so thanks to the people who wrote those. If you've got any more questions, write them here. I'd love to make this a regular segment. And so look, as I said, this is going to be the first video to launch this channel. I've got a bunch of other videos already shot, and I'm going to be shooting more, and I'll be publishing those on this video regularly, weekly, hopefully. And so that's sort of my cue to segue into asking you to subscribe. And if you gave this, if you like this video, give it a like. And I'll catch you around, and hope to see you a lot going forward. Peace.